Dear students, today's class will execute the experiment 11, which is a lab experiment. It's a practical experiment, experiment 11. In this experiment, we're going to create a virtual networks, which is one of the service that is provided by the Microsoft Azure. Okay, so our task in this experiment is we have to create Azure virtual networks. Okay, so first of all, what is meant by a virtual network? We'll try to understand what is meant by a virtual network. So this 11th experiment says that you have to create a virtual network. You have to create a virtual network, and the steps used to create a virtual network in Azure portal and define the address space of virtual network and configure the subnets within the virtual network. Okay. Let us try to understand what is meant by a virtual network and what is meant by a subnet. Okay. For that, for example, if you see here, the white space, what you're looking here, the white space is nothing but a cloud. Okay. For example, let us say this is a cloud. A cloud is nothing but an internet, right? It is a cloud. A cloud is nothing but an internet. It is a public network. Okay, it is a public network which can be accessed by everyone. So, what are the systems that are installed here? What are the systems that are installed in this network in the cloud? They can exchange a communication with each other, right? But the communication is not secure as as all are in the unsecured network, or you can say in a public network, our communication is not secure. So, for example, if any organization wants to create a secured network or a private network within the public network, okay, that can be possible by using virtual network. Okay, so what is a virtual network means? The definition of virtual network is it is a service it is a service provided by the Microsoft Azure which allows you to securely connect and manage resources in the cloud. Simply we can say it acts as a private isolated network within the Azure. Means whatever the public network we are having here, from this cloud, within the public network, we can have a separate network. We can have a separate network or a private network, which is nothing but virtual network. Now see, the circle here is nothing but a virtual network. Okay, so virtual network. Now within this circle, if any organization wants to have a private network, an organization can create a service that is virtual network within the cloud. So within the circle, whatever the systems that are connected, they can exchange the communication in a secured manner because it is free from the outside traffic. Whatever the traffic that is going to comes in will be protected by a firewall. Okay. So not all can come into this with virtual network. Only authorized person can have a communication with the systems within the virtual network. So the circle that you are seeing, let us say a virtual network. Okay. So and simply you can say a virtual network is nothing but it is a private isolated network within the Azure. It is service. Azure virtual network is a service provided by the Microsoft. Okay. So within this virtual network, we can host our virtual machines. Already we have seen what is a virtual machine. Virtual machine nothing but it is an image of our physical system in the cloud. So whatever the physical system will do, the processing, storage, okay, output, everything can be done by a image of our physical system, which is going to create in the cloud. That is nothing but a virtual machines. Okay. So we can deploy our virtual machines in a virtual network. Okay. So these are the key features. One is isolation and security. Okay. Mm, It's free from the it is free from the public network. Second one is subnets. Subnet is nothing but a logical partition of virtual network. For example, this is a virtual network, okay, which is of capacity 1000 systems. Okay, we can specify the capacity. For any organization wants to have a private network, they can specify I want a virtual network with with this much capacity. For example, 1000 systems this virtual network can have. So within this virtual network, we can logically partition this virtual network. In any organization, there are several departments like marketing, HR, okay, accounts department, like that, right? So if any organization wants to have wants to have a logical partition of this virtual network, that flexibility is available in Azure. So for example, if I partition this virtual network with one partition, this logical partition is called subnet. Okay, there is a virtual network. There is a virtual network. Within this virtual network, I can have a logical partition. I can have many number of partitions, right? Each partition we call it as subnet. Okay, so the total capacity of the virtual network is 1000. Let us say I want the subnet should have a capacity of 100 systems. Okay, like this, I can have subnets of capacity 100. I can have 10 subnets within the virtual networks. Okay, each capacity is 100 systems. So within this subnet, I can deploy my virtual machines. Okay, okay. First step is, in this experiment, first step is we are going to create a virtual network. In the second step, we are going to create a subnet within this virtual network. Okay, this capacity we can specify. Okay, the 1000 and 100 you can specify according to the requirement. According to the requirement. Once the virtual machine and the subnet is created, one more important feature that is having is security, which is nothing but a firewall. Okay, this is a firewall which protects. This is a firewall which protects our virtual network from the unauthorized users. Okay, so this is a firewall. This is just like a security guard, security persons at the entrance gate, which monitors everything, that is going to comes in, and that is going to coming out from the network. Okay, so firewall is nothing but it is a security mechanism used to protect our virtual network. So in Azure, this firewall we call it as network security group. Okay, so in the Azure we can call it as NSG, which is nothing but network security group. So this is the third step. First one is virtual network. We're going to create a virtual network. Second one is creation of a subnet. Third one is an NSG, which is nothing but network security group. Okay. Now let us going to create this virtual network in the Azure. Okay. For that, please go to the Azure portal. Go to the Azure portal. In the search bar, please type virtual networks or VNet. Virtual network or VNet. So click on this virtual network. Click on create. We have to enter some details into this. Subscription. Azure for Students is my subscription. Resource group KL Student Learn. KL Student Learn is my resource name. Virtual network name. Give some name. I want to give like KL Test Virtual Network. Okay. KL Test VN is my virtual network name. Select the region as Central India. Select the region as Central India. Click on next. So the next one is security part. So no need to select anything here in the security part as far as this experiment concerned. Okay. So click on again next. Now it is very important, IP addresses. Now if you see, as I have told you already, the virtual network is going to create with some capacity. Let us say 1000. So here, if you see here, the capacity of by default the Azure has selected this range. Okay, so if you see here, the IP address range is 10.0.0.0 and 10.0.255.255. So within this range, so almost it is 65,500 change addresses can be generated within this virtual network which is going to create. So, for example, if you don't want this many systems for your organization, or if you want more number than this 65,000, that you can select here. Okay, according to the your selection, the number of addresses will get changed. See, if I get 17, it is comes down to almost half of the addresses, right? So by default, the Azure has selected. So here the number is increasing 2,62,000. So like this, if you go on, can have like this number of IP addresses you are having. So by default 16 is selected, but for the demo purpose, I'm also keeping this as it is. So IP address, we all know that IP address is nothing but what is an IP address? It is a unique identifier which is assigned to each device in order to recognize in a network, right? Which is used for communication between the device over the internet or a private network like virtual networks. Okay. So what are the types of IP addresses? There are two types are there. IPv4 Internet Protocol version 4 and version 6. So normally what we use is IPv4, which is a 32-bit address, which is 32-bit address means each dotted line is 8 bits, 8 into 4 32, right? So it is represented in the form of dotted decimal format. Second type is IPv4. It is a 128-bit address represents in the hexadecimal format. Okay. So normally we use these IPv4 addresses. Second one is when it comes to the accessibility, there are two different types of accessibilities are there. One is public access and private access. Public access is nothing but it is assigned by internet service provider ISPs. Okay, which is used for communication over for the public network. Okay. Second one is like what we are doing now, that is virtual networks or a LAN, local area networks within an organization. So these are the private IP addresses. These are the different ranges of the private IP addresses. Now, if you see here, our private IP address range is this one. You can have 65,000 change addresses. Now, if you see here, subnets. When it comes to the subnet, by default, here also the Azure has created one subnet. Okay, so this is a total virtual network capacity 1000. Within this, I can have a logical partition that is 100 systems. So if you see here, among the 65,500 change addresses, one subnet is created by the Azure with a capacity of 256 addresses. Okay, means we can have a 256 virtual machines can be installed within the subnet. Okay, so this one also you can change this one and this capacity also according to your usage. According to our usage, this capacity also we can change. Okay, so I am also leaving this as it is. Okay, let me change the name from default to primary subnet. I want to change this into a primary subnet. Okay, my subnet name is primary subnet. Leave everything is as it is. We will see the remaining things later. Okay, click on save. Now, so within this virtual network, I can have a subnet, a private subnet with a capacity of 256 addresses. Now click on next. Click on next, review and create. So these are the parameters. Click on create. Now what happens here is the first two steps are completed. First one is virtual network. We have specified the address range. Second one is within this virtual network, we have a logically partitioned this virtual network into one subnet. You can have multiple subnets. You can have any number of multiple subnets according to the requirement of any organization or a personal use. Okay. So deployment is completed. Now, once the virtual network is created, within this subnet is also created. The next step that we need to do is, what is the next step? Is nothing but set up a firewall, which is nothing but NSG. This is one more service. Okay, network security group is one more service which protects the virtual network from the outside traffic. From the outside traffic. So for that, go to the home page again. In the search bar, please search for NSG, network security groups. Okay, keyword is NSG. Click on this. Now we will create, very simple, create NSG, give the details which is required. So KL student plan which I have selected for the virtual network, that is only I have to select here. So KL stud learn, give some name. I will give KL test NSG. Okay, this was taken. Select the region same as what you have given for the virtual network. Okay, that is Central India. Now review and create. Validation passed. Click on create. Now, after this network security group is created, now you have to set up whatever the subnet that you have created. You have to assign this subnet to the firewall, right? You have to assign this subnet to the firewall. Then only our subnet will be protected. Okay, deployment completed. Now, go to the VNet. Go to the home page again. Okay, virtual network. This is the virtual network that you have created. Click on this virtual network which you have created. Now click on the subnets. So here, uh, these are the parameters which we have selected. Okay. In the menu, if you see, we can have a subnets. See here in the settings. Okay. Left hand side menu pane. Under the settings, you can have a subnets. So in the subnets, I have created one primary subnet which is of capacity 251. Right. So we have to set up this NSG which we have created. Click here. Scroll down. You may see one parameter called network security group. It is by default it is none because we did not create a NSG by the time that we are creating the subnet. So now as we have created the NSG, we have to assign this scale test NSG to the subnet. Okay. Now I have assigned this. Now my subnet is protected from the outside traffic. So click on save. Successfully saved subnet, right? So what we have done in this experiment is we have created a virtual network. We have logically partitioned this virtual network into one subnet. I have created one logical partition and also have set up a firewall which protects my subnet from the outside traffic. Now what are the subnet that I have created? Within this I can have a multiple number of virtual machines according to my capacity. I think it is 251, right? So I can have 251 systems, virtual machines can be deployed in this deployed in this particular subnet, right? So our first experiment says that create a virtual network, define the address space and configure the subnets. Okay, this is the first part of our experiment. And the second part is exploring what is the role of NSG in protecting a VNet. Discuss how VNets can be connected using VNet peering and its practical uses. We'll see this later. Okay, this is what our experiment experiment 11 says it. Okay.